What would you say thus far has been your biggest role? Would it be the Hulu special with Carrie?
Yeah, I would definitely say Little Fires. I mean, I remember when I booked it, I could not believe it because before then, I had only booked like guest star and recurring roles, which I was so grateful for. But I definitely kind of had it in my mind where I was like, I probably won't get an opportunity like that for like a couple of more years. Like I was content and good with what I was doing. But I remember when the audition for Pearl came in, and I was so excited. It was the first time where I had like seen like a layered complex role like that for I was 15 at the time, so for a young 15-year-old Black girl. And
Mm-hmm.
when I got it,
Mm-hmm.
I went in because I knew I was like opportunities like this, they don't come often. So when you get something like this, you have to put in a lot of hard work, and you have to treat it with a lot of care. And I think that we did that.
Oh my God, I was mad we didn't get a season two. I was like, where is the rest? We need more. I remember, I'm going to tell you, this is such a crazy story. Me and my,
Mhm.
at the time, a really good friend of
Yeah.
mine, her name is Fabiola Mercado. Still, shout out to
Mhm.
Fabiola. We would watch it
Mhm.
without fail. It was appointment viewing.
Mhm.
And Fabiola, I don't remember what episode it was, but Fabiola was so mad at you. She was like, that little girl made me so mad. She was so mean to her mom. And she was so mad at you. And I was like, girl, that is good acting. Because you made us mad. We was like, she is mad.
Right.
I'm mad. I'm mad at you.
Even
You've been
my mom was like, "You better not talk to me like that."
like
I was
because you
like,
were
I
wait.
would never, I would
I would
never.
you're like, mom, it's the role. But
Right,
you
I'm
really
acting.
yes, but it's the best thing. It's the biggest compliment you can ever give someone to say, I believed you so much so I was mad at you. It was
Yeah.
what were the responses to that? What were when it was released, what were
Mhm.
the critics, not that you may care about what critics say, but what was the response you
Yeah.
received?
I don't know. I didn't it was really hard to be able to process all of it because it was just so much at once, especially like during quarantine. So there was
Yeah.
already so much happening in the world. And
Yes.
then it was like everything that I had prayed for and dreamed of for my career wasn't happening in the span of like a couple of months, which was really crazy. But the outpour of love and support that I got from critics and from other like fellow artists and people that I had admired so much.
Hmm.
Um, it was incredible. I felt, I don't know, I just really felt proud of the work that we did. Pro was not an easy
Yeah.
role at
Yeah.
all. I'm like, there were
No.
moments where I was losing sleep, sobbing, crying, where I would take home some of the baggage, that I had filmed that day because that's how emotionally invested and attached to the role that I was. So it definitely felt like all of the hard work, everything that we had put into the project,
Hmm.
I don't know, it was worth
It
it.
was
And
beautiful.
I
It was
was really glad
beautiful.
also. Yeah, I was glad that we were also able to bring just a form of entertainment, especially during that time, because
It's
everybody
perfect.
had no clue what was happening.
Perfect.
And so the mere fact that at least for like 40 minutes, people could turn on the TV and kind of forget about what was happening in the outside world was
Yeah,
also cool.
it was such a beautiful release. So incredibly talented. Good for you. Congratulations to you.
Thank
Now, I
you.
believe I read your dream role would be playing Aaliyah. Is that
Yeah.
correct?
To a
Now,
dream. Yeah.
why Aaliyah? I'm really interested that why people are so fascinated by her that didn't even
Hmm.
weren't even born really when she was
Yeah.
here. You know what I mean? Like I feel like that's very fascinating. What about her and her and her music makes you feel
Hmm.
like that would be a good fit for you?
Yeah. Well, like I said, number one, growing up, Aaliyah was
You
like she's always
cr-
been like my favorite musical artist.
okay. Oh wow.
But
Okay.
specifically, yeah, but specifically for me also, it's just something about like the story of a young Black girl from Detroit who similarly like she had a dream. Her and her parents, they took a leap of faith and they made it happen. And that is so real to my story
You.
as well. I also
Mhm.
think just the persistence, the strength, the way in which she tackled everything that she did with hard work and with grace is very admirable, especially during yet again like she was so young when her
Mhm.
life was cut short, but in that
Yeah.
span of time she made such an impact on this world.
She did. She
And
did.
I as an artist can only hope that I would touch people with my art as much as her art has touched me and so many other people. And she's that girl. Like she's when it comes to fashion, when it comes to like
Everything.
everything, we see so much. She's inspired so many people nowadays when it comes to fashion and music in general. And I think that that's just really beautiful to have been on this earth for such a short period of time, but to have made such an impact that will forever, like that legacy that she's created will forever live
I
on. And
love
I think
that.
that that's just really dope.
No, I love that.
Yeah.
You're right. I think it was a very significant moment in the culture for music.
Hmm.
And you're right. In such a short period of time, she was able to do a lot, and she impacted so
Yeah.
many people. And this story hasn't really been told candidly, for
Hmm.
obvious reasons. But it would be
Yeah.
beautiful, right, to get the real vulnerable version, because there is still this mystery surrounding who she is, you know what I mean? And so I think you would hit that out the park if that ever was the way
Thank
it was
you.
supposed to be. I really
Yeah.
do. Speaking of having an impact, I am told, you know, that you are an activist, and that excites me.
Hmm.
I feel like we're in good hands. You know what I mean? And at 19 years
Yeah.
old, like, you are activated and wanting to help change the world. Tell me about your work with Red.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I'm honestly constantly inspired by Gen Z, by all of my peers. I've number one, we're the most diverse generation to exist, and I feel like we're probably one of the most right now, especially like we're very vocal and we're not backing down. And
Mm-hmm.
I love the fact that we're not just talking about surface level things; that we're touching on real life circumstances that affect not just people in America, but everywhere. Um,
Mm-hmm.
for me, I'm very vocal about I'm vocal about Black Lives Matter, vocal about LGBTQ, especially and trans youth in general with what's happening in Florida right now. I'm vocal about, abortion, birth control, all those things. But I think specifically for me with Red, HIV and AIDS, what they're doing is so incredible. And I think that I my perspective of this epidemic was so narrow, and then after working with Red you realize how much of a global issue HIV and AIDS actually is. I was really
Mm-hmm.
fortunate to go to Tanzania with them last year, and honestly it was a life-changing trip. I
Mm-hmm.
met so many different women that were had either they had HIV and AIDS, or they had parents that were struggling with HIV and AIDS, or even their children, giving it down to
Mm-hmm.
their children and dealing with that. And it was something that was honestly so alarming to me, of the fact that
Yeah.
we have all these resources in America. I went to it's called the One Coconut Hospital in Tanzania. It's the only female hospital with the only OBGYN in Tanzania. And they had a total of 15 tools to do pap smears and checkups on the women in Tanzania. And they were rusty and broken. And it was it was absolutely heartbreaking understanding and seeing the fact that we have access to medicine, access to the proper tools, but so many people all over the world are losing their lives because they don't have the proper
Mm-hmm.
resources that honestly aren't even that expensive. Like I was talking to this one group of women who all of them they had HIV and AIDS, but they created this own community where they raised each other's children and they cared for one another. But they created their own soap business to try and help raise money to get the proper funding for the resources
Mm-hmm.
that they needed for treatment.
Mm-hmm.
1 gallon to do 1 gallon of soap, they're hand making it takes like 2 days. And I asked them, I was
Mm-hmm.
like, well, how much would it be just to buy you a soap maker, like just a machine, so you can make 3 gallons of soap a day? They said it's just $100. And
Oh.
to me, I'm just like, the mere fact that like these people are struggling all over the world, not even just in Tanzania, but all over the world, that genuinely should be able to have access to these things. It's heartbreaking, and it only made me more motivated to come here and share their stories and to make sure that I'm continuously checking up on them, checking up on not even just the women in Africa, but now then going to the women in Asia, the women in South
Mm-hmm.
America, and seeing what they need, because it really is a global epidemic. And I don't understand why we
Mm.
have not done everything that we can do to make sure that people are no longer dying from HIV and AIDS.
I can, it's frustrating to even think about it and what is not happening, and
Yeah.
the fact that and
Mhm.
it speaks to a world in which I know that there's more money in the disease than actually curing it. So it really does frustrate me. So when here you
Yeah.
are, I want to go back to you saying something I think is pretty powerful. I was
Mhm.
watching the Dear Mama docu series on Afeni
Mm,
Shakur and Tupac,
yeah.
and I learned a lot, which is some things that I should already know. But what I
Mhm.
always have found profound is that those who want to change the world start at such a young age. Like they really do. Like many of
Mm,
the Black Panthers were
yeah.
early 20s, and here you are at 19 years old, like, okay, no, this is what Gen Z wants to do. And I'm very proud of this generation. We're more outspoken than ever. And I agree. It's always been that generation that is still not affected by the world and knows, right? And the meaning, like, not there, you haven't been jaded yet. Like you could be, but you're not. Like you're still like, we still can change the world,
Mhm.
and we can.
Yeah.
That hope is palpable. Um, as an ambassador, what do you think your responsibility is now and perhaps in the future with Red and any other organizations that you work with?
I think that it's truly just about like I think that it's I think that it's really easy also to slip into the space where we just talk and talk and talk. We don't
Yeah,
actually put action behind the words. And so
yeah,
for me as an ambassador, I remember the moment that I got back to Africa, I asked Red, I was like, so what is your game plan? Like what next? Where do
yeah,
we go from here?
yeah.
I was really fortunate recently. I had hosted a dinner with Red. And so I was able to bring a lot more artists and activists that were passionate about those issues
I love it.
and bring the stories that I heard in Tanzania and share that with them. And just from that one dinner alone, so many people got motivated and now want to work with Red and have been sharing those stories on their social media. That now it since then, Red is doing one in London. They're doing one in New York. And so for me, it's continuously also making sure that I am holding the people accountable. You need to donate. If you have the funds and if you say
Yeah,
that you care about these things,
yeah,
it's not that much. It
yeah,
really isn't that much to do a little bit to make sure that somebody's life is saved, to ensure
yeah.
because you can't post about these things and then just not do anything
And
about
not
it.
do the follow-up and
And
do the
so for me, I
work, yeah.
yeah, exactly. So I think for me, it's just really being adamant about not backing down, doing the follow up, keeping in touch with the people that really need our help, and continuously sharing those stories and not being timid, especially I feel like in certain spaces you want to like be careful about what you say and be
Eh,
careful about what you
I
do. But
love
I
it.
think that if you really believe in something,
Yeah,
you got to
you're a
stand
truth
up for it.
teller. Yeah, you're a truth teller. You got to speak. You
Yeah.
have to speak up and do what you do as a truth
Mhm.
teller. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. Where do
Mhm.
you where do you see in terms of the work that you want to do and the type of roles that you want to take on? Where do you see and we all have when I'm at this age I do this and we all have these agendas or we try to map things out and God changes it around. What do you see what's next for you in terms of this next season of your life as an actress, as an activist, as a daughter, as a friend?
Mhm. I think that this next season of my life, I'm turning 20 this year. So
Mm-hmm.
I've definitely been thinking a lot about as I step into like this new season, the kind of person that I want to be. I think specifically for me, for throughout my especially teen years, in every space, I think that I haven't given myself the space to just be unapologetically me and to make
Mm,
mistakes and to mess up.
I love
And so
it.
I think that that's a big thing as I step into this new season is just like being unapologetically me and not judging myself. As an actor, I think that that's a big thing, not judging where I am in my career, giving myself the space and trusting the journey, trusting God. As a daughter, I think just continuously showing up for my, I feel like I'm already, but as to
Mm-hmm.
the extent that I can even further showing up for my family and in those spaces where, or in those moments where I may get caught up in other things. But I think for me, it's just being easier on myself, like not just allowing myself to flow and
Mm.
I don't think
I
that I've
love
done much of that
that.
within the
I love
past couple of
that. I love that. I love that. Yes.